thinking about it.
Dive into the realm of the healthy, wealthy, and conscious. Specifically crafted for the digitally conscious individual, with your internationally award-winning host, Tenille. This is your sanctuary to explore, engage, and be enlightened across the spectrums of business, personal growth, and consciousness. Join us as we converse with pioneers in human behaviour, self-awareness, wellness, and prosperity, aiming to cultivate a space for reflection and growth towards a more conscious, prosperous, and healthy self.
Welcome everybody to our first of, I think, kicking back off and reawakening the Digital Consciousness podcast, where we interviewed some incredible people. And I'm so excited to bring to you someone who who has personally shifted the reality of my life with her techniques, has actually been the person responsible for reversing a 35-year chronic illness that I had, which was absolutely debilitating. By introducing me to an incredible technology, which some people here who follow me know what that is. But I'd love to introduce you to Regan Hillyer, and Regan is an incredible person. She's known as the manifestation queen, and I came across you first through Mindvalley, and that's really where my life changed. You are the creator of the energetic architecture method, which is an incredible method and very individual. You've been on all platforms. So you may have seen her on Forbes, on Fox, NBC, Huffington Post, to name a few. And you have created and continue to create such an inspiring journey and path of manifesting and really walking the talk of what it is you teach. So welcome, Regan Hillyer.
Thank you so much, Tenille. It's so good to be here. I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, beautiful. And so for those people who, have probably heard of you or maybe haven't heard of you, if there was one thing you could share with someone about you and what would encapsulate you, if there was a word, what do you think that word would be?
One word.
It's hard, isn't it?
It is hard. That's a very difficult question to start off with. But I think the word would be possibility, because I really love helping ignite that sense of infinite possibilities within people and really reminding them that they can have it all in their lives in whatever way that looks like for them. So that would be my word for today.
Yeah, that's a good word. I like that word. And so, for that, where did the concept of you can have it all, where did that derive from? When did it start for you, of this awareness of, oh, hang on, I can actually do this? What was that moment for you?
Yeah, look, it started actually very young in my life. When I was 17, 18, I was in New Zealand at Victoria University in Wellington, and I was studying to be an architect, and everyone kind of expected me to go down that pathway. And I had a moment where a new lecturer walked in, and he got us to visualize our future as the architect that we were born to be 20 years out from that moment in time, right? And everyone got very excited. And I started going through this process, and I felt absolutely sick to my stomach. And I just saw in front of me that I was creating this life that wasn't really in alignment with my soul. And so I got up, and this voice inside my head was like, get out of the room. And I ran out of that room, and I was like, okay, I'm going to figure out, why am I here, and how do I create a life that I love? And so as I started going down that pathway, I started learning from a lot of different people and studying a lot of people and reading a lot of different books. And, it was interesting. There was a lot of teachings and people saying, and still saying, that you can't have it all at once. I mean, even Oprah Winfrey has a quote that says, you can have it all, just not all at once. And there was part of me, is this like little rebel 18-year-old that was like, why? Why not? Why not? Why do I have to excel with my finances but let my health go down the drain? Or why could I have really great health but not be happy in my relationships? Like, it just didn't make sense to me. So I was hearing all these people say that. And these were like famous, well-renowned, successful people. But there was something in me that was like, no, that's not right. And it ignited this flame of, what if you could have it all in your life? What if I could have it all in whatever way that looks like for me? But what if I could help others actually have it all in whatever way that looks like for them? And it's interesting because now we're much further down the journey, and my work is still centered around that. But it really came from that spark of like, you know what? No, I disagree.
Yeah. And did you find on your journey of that exploration of having it all that, there was a real need for boundaries and practices to make sure that you did have that balance in amongst having all of it? Like, what was your approach to making sure that there was balance in having the all?
Yeah, totally. Well, if we want to have it all, this is not from the construct of limiting ego. This is not about
Mm.
material things. Having it all to me, firstly, means, in every area of your life, you're thriving in whatever way that looks like for you. And that may include some material objects, that may include like extreme happiness and love and things that are intangible, right? And so, yeah, it's interesting when I started out on this journey and when I was piecing it all together and I was kind of on this quest of like, well, what would it look like to have it all? I realized that the having it allness was actually directly impacted by the beingness. And
Mm.
it all, we must be it all. In order to have it all, we must be the version ourselves that we're really looking to bring to the table of life, right? And so, yes to boundaries, and yes to practices, and yes to discipline, blisscipline, as I like to call it. Yes to going in and deeply looking at how do we condition ourselves to succeed from the inside out, because it's impossible to have it all in a high frequency in every area of your life if you're not first vibrating there and recalibrating yourself to be an energetic match to that reality from the inside out, right?
Yeah, right. And so how did you find the technique? And I know a number of your techniques, which are incredible. Um, but when you start to manifest and create that technique and you embody it in the current reality that you're in, and you've kind of got this gap between the current reality and what it is you're manifesting, is there something that, because often the ego self or the mind or the self-sabotage part of ourselves starts to go, oh well, hang on, no, that's just a fantasy, you're imagining it, but you're getting yourself into manifesting that, but you're actually still in this really bad situation that you want to get out of. How do you sort of reconcile that to kind of make it so it really does embody and feel real? Because obviously when you started, I'm assuming, it was like you start from the ground up, and it's like, you're starting from the ground and you're having to dig the holes and you're having to sow the seeds and you're having to do all that, and you've got dirt all over your face and you're sweating. And so
Yeah,
it's like, how do you embody that future vision, which is what you're living now, which, to create, to kind of keep it real.
for
you know?
sure. Yeah, it's interesting how uncomfortable we tend as humans to get with the gap when there's always a gap. If we have any sort of dream or vision or prayer that we're bringing into our reality, there's always a gap because you wouldn't be dreaming it if it was here now. Yet we get really uncomfortable with the gap, and we get impacted by the gap, and we think, oh, it must be so far away and it's not here now. That means it's not working, or it's not manifesting, or it's not showing up. So look, what most people do is they take their past and they unconsciously copy paste it into the now, and they think that they are their past, and they say, well, look, I wasn't very good at making money in the past, which means I'm just not very good at making money, and they copy paste that, right? And then what they do is they then unconsciously copy paste it into their future, and they take that whole belief structure, that whole system, that whole inner wiring based off past experiences, which actually don't exist anymore, and they take that and they imprint it and they copy paste it into their future, and then they say, oh, look, I was right, it's not working, it hasn't shown up. But it's because there's this weird unconscious copy paste thing going on inside of them. So what we get to do is to take a step back and firstly realize, all right, we're at now right now, and yes, we all have a past, and yes, we can have memories of it and we can create stories from it, but it is what it is. Okay, and we don't necessarily have to then copy that past into the now. At any moment we can take a step back, take a breath, choose to learn from that, and say, actually, from now I'm bringing a different version of me to the table. And then we take that new construct and that new inner wiring and we start mapping it out into our future. And that's when we start getting these different results. So it's important to remember that wherever you're at right now, yes, is an accumulation of all of your past beliefs and decisions and experiences, but it actually has nothing to do with where you're going. And so it's important to remember that. And if you feel like the gap is impacting you, then you're just allowing yourself to again copy those old constructs. So I've done this so many times in my life. I still do this in my life where I just take a breath, I step back, and I'm like, all right, we're going to use this new second, this new minute right now as a new second chance of opportunity to completely rewrite the future reality, regardless of the gap.
Oops, I think I was on mute. That's so beautiful. I really love that. It's such a beautiful way to look at it and to be able to shift that perspective, because really that's all it is, you know, a shift in perspective. Because as I was doing the, and anybody who isn't on Mindvalley, get on there and have a look at Regan's course. It's really quite life-changing. It was such a January and I, my partner, we're both work in sound, and we felt like we were actually on a journey through the whole course. Like we kept looking at each other going, are we ready for this? Like, and our life has literally, I'm in the moment of having been uplifted and completely thrown on its head. And it's just like, we looked at each other and went, well, we asked for this, you know, this is the transition bit. We knew it wasn't going to be comfortable. But in doing the program and in doing the course that's on Mindvalley, that at the very beginning when we were doing it, we felt like because we work with frequency, we felt a frequency shift within our bodies. We actually felt the visceral impact of shifting that perspective, and it's just so powerful to be able to apply. And we literally felt like we were on a journey, and we were just like, wow, this is like incredible. So yeah, thank you for the gift of that. And the question that I wanted to ask you is, what in your lifetime has been, probably if you had to pick one, the most challenging situation that you've had to face, and how it was you actually overcame it?
There's been a lot of challenges. If I had to pick one, a moment that's feeling present to me right now as I tune into that is a moment where I had moved to Melbourne, Australia at the time, and I was running one of my first companies. It was actually a drug and alcohol rehab clinic, and we were helping people with all, natural remedies and natural therapies and vitamin C and hypnotherapy and really amazing work. Long story short, business partnership went downhill very quickly, and I learned a lot as a 21-year-old maybe at that time, to the point where I had all of the money in my account completely wiped out overnight, which left me with $8.70 and no other cash on hand. And about 5 days later, an eviction notice coming under my apartment door for rent that I thought had been paid, but it wasn't, because it was out of the account that got cleared out. And I ended up sleeping on my friend's couch in Melbourne. His name is Theo, bless his dear heart. And I was, at that moment in time, so worried about what my family would say or think that I didn't tell anybody, because I had all these people watching me trying to create this life, and they were just waiting. They were just waiting for this to happen. They were just waiting for the failure point, So I was like, okay, no one can know about this except my friend Theo, who I know has got my back. And so I went to his house and I slept on his couch and I ate his food. And it was at that moment when I was sleeping on that couch in his 1-bedroom apartment, I was like, okay, I have a choice. And I could literally feel my inner reality wanting to contract. I could feel my inner reality wanting to create stories like, you are not good at creating money. If you start another business, you're going to end up in this situation again. Look at you. You should have just gone and got a job and finished your architecture degree and gone on and done your master's. What are you doing in this mess? And I had all of this all of this inner dialogue in my head, and I realized, like, wow, okay, I really have a choice. This is either going to anchor into my reality and I will become this vision, or I can completely shift this from the inside out. And it was in that moment, lying on that couch in my friend's house in his small apartment, that I would write out things like, I choose to believe that I am a multimillionaire. I choose to believe that business opportunities come to me and money flows to me easily. I choose to believe that I'm living the most amazing, abundant life with powerful people around me doing what I love. I choose to believe that I have vitality and that I have freedom. And I was writing out all these things. And honestly, if you guys had seen my life and seen what was going on in my head, you probably would have said I needed to go to some sort of psychiatric unit, because it was like, we talk about the gap was so big. The gap wasn't, okay, how do I just get through the next few months? I pushed that to be like maybe 5 or more years out into my future that I was connecting into. And I knew that it was at that choice point that things were going to shift. In that moment, I was like, okay, I also need some financial stability. So I said to myself, okay, I think for the first time ever in my life, I'm going to go and get a job. And I thought, okay, well, where do I start with that? And I was searching for jobs online. I was like, what do I do? And I thought, look, if I'm going to do this, I want to at least do something that I enjoy a little bit. And I had a mentor who lived and still lives in Melbourne, Australia. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go and work for him. This would be cool. I can actually learn good things and connect, and I'll have some sort of stable income, right? And so I call the office, and this lady called Lou answers the phone, and I recognize her name from one of the events. And I said, hey, you know, I've been to one of your personal development events before. And she's like, oh yeah, sure. Like, she obviously has no idea who I am, but she's being really nice. She's like, oh, how are you? I'm like, oh, you know, I've been better, but guess what? I think I should come and work for you and for the company. And she said, oh, that's really kind of you, but you know, we're not hiring right now. And then these words come out of my mouth: I'll work for free for a month, and if I'm good, you can keep me. And she's silent. And then she says, okay, come in tomorrow morning. And so I turn up at the office. I still don't have any money. I'm borrowing money from my friend Theo. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I look around for my mentor. He's not there. My person that I met at this event, Lou, comes. She goes, oh, you must be Regan. I said, yeah, hi. I said, you know, thank you so much. I'm really excited for this job. I mean, it's going to be a long month, I think, but I'm here. What am I doing? And she says, yeah, well, we have a sales team, and we have people that are on the phone, and they're calling people and they're making sales. And I thought, okay, yeah, maybe I can do that. And she goes, no, you're not going to do that. You're not qualified to do that. She goes, you're going to book the appointments for the people that are going to be making the sales calls. And I said, okay, got it. To cut a long story short, within 1 month of that company, I was the top salesperson in that company. I had no experience of sales, but every single night I would go home and I would watch YouTube videos, and I would learn, and I would write out, I am the top salesperson in this company. I am a master of sales. I understand how to positively influence people. I am changing lives on the phone every day, and I love it, and I'm paid for it. And I started conditioning myself to do this. And if we fast forward again, about 8 months from there, I'd created my own education company, and we launched that out. And I think it was about just over a year and 2 months later, we hit the first $1 million through that mission. And needless to say, I left the job. So,
wow.
you know,
Yeah. And I mean, it takes a particular kind of person to have that level of tenacity and have that level of determination. And there's an ingredient, I feel, that comes with, that comes with being able to completely, go in, work for free, and then become the top salesperson, and then go on to create your first $1 million. And then I think now you're, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've created a wonderful empire that's almost $44 million worth. Like you're just going, and it's so incredible to watch. And I'm just like looking at you going, yeah, you go, girl. That's so good. It's so awesome. It's just it's incredible. What the ingredient in, say, taking it back to that moment where you were still working for free, and you were, going home, and you had that motivation to become the top salesperson. Did you ever have those moments of that little voice, that self-sabotage voice coming in, and what did you do to offset it? What was a technique at that time that that you used to kind of like go, "No, not happening."
Totally. Yeah, I had that voice not just like popping in. I had that voice like yelling at me, being like, "What are you doing?" Like I'm still living on my friend's couch at this point in time, right? Like I have the voice going wild, being like, "You are crazy." But look, I knew that I could either listen to the voice or I could recondition myself to the point where that voice doesn't even have any power over me. And so every time the voice would happen, I would stop and I would simply tag it. I would realize it's not me because I think most people think that they're the voice. They think that they're their thoughts. They're like, oh, I'm thinking that. No, no, no. Okay. I would tag it and be like, oh, the voice is going crazy right now. I actually gave the voice a name at some point. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah,
Just
yep,
call it
yep.
Bob, right? But I was like, oh, Bob's going nuts. And sometimes I would write down what the voice was saying and write it out of my journal just to get it out and then be like, okay, well, that's absolutely ridiculous. And I'm not going to absorb any of that. But I think it's a really big thing if someone can simply tag it, step back, recognize it, and be like, oh, that's not me, claim their power back, and then continue on forward, you know?
Yeah, and that's sort of, I mean, in many ways, I did similar things where I was down to $1.50, and then I built a $2.5 million company in under a year, and it was all on the smell of an oily rag, they call it.
Yeah.
So and a lot of tenacity. So I get that it's almost like you. I love that analogy of like the burning the boats. You burnt your boats, and you've got no other option. You're either going to sink or swim. And sometimes being in that level is the very thing that motivates us, because then you're not comfortable. You're not in a space where it's all comfortable, I don't really have to try. So it kind of was that motivation. But fast forwarding now to where you're at now, and looking at, I think people have the misconception that you've built this incredible empire. You're seen everywhere. On Mindvalley, on in recently on Forbes. Congratulations. And so, but does that Bob voice still come in amongst where you're at now?
Here and there, it does for sure. It's definitely not as strong. It definitely doesn't have as much power, and I have the capacity to just delete it faster. But it's not that it just goes away and it doesn't stop. Especially, when you're someone who's constantly striving for that next level. Now, it might not be from pain anymore. It might not be like you're talking about, like, okay, now my life is super uncomfortable. I have to change it. I've got to get off this couch, right? It can be from a really pleasurable, awesome, great place. But still, when you create really big gaps and you are elevating your manifestations into a more heightened place, it's very normal that these lower parts of ourselves come up and, again, tag it, catch it, shift it. I think now I just move through it a lot faster than in the beginning. I would have had to like be really strong and battle with it.
Yeah. And I think what I love the most about you is the gap that you create and what then you manifest. If let's talk about the nest where you are right now. I mean, this is something I believe that's going to be a landmark for the world. Like, it's going to be, people are going to look back, like, you're so ahead of its time in some ways that people are going to look back and go, oh my God, we actually had this on the planet. Like, like, this is incredible. Can you share a little bit about this incredible now moment creation that you're probably in the midst of, the manifesting and the creating piece?
Yes, we're right in the middle of the manifesting and the creating. You should have seen my day today is like meeting with construction people, this person over there, banging over there. Like, we have so many buildings under construction right now, which is very chaotic and also very amazing and warms my heart all at the same time. So yeah, the nest and what myself and Wampa are creating here is basically a beautiful fusion of ancient wisdom and quantum technology. And it's where those two elements come together and meet at a convergence point, which then birthed into an ascension spa that people can come and attend retreats and experience some of the technologies and modalities and everything like that. And then also a conscious community of people that are starting to now have their piece of land here and then eventually build their homes and come. We're really redesigning every system of consciously living from a high frequency from the inside out, all the way to how the food is grown, to biogeometry, to activating the floor with certain crystals and copper wire, and not just having, I guess, natural conscious architecture, but actually activated spaces that are emitting a frequency that are healing in themselves when you just are around them or when you walk into them. So it's a whole new way of having your house and actually living this way, all the way through to creating a new schooling system as well for the children on the land here, and then also for the wider community. So yeah, it's a it's a big mission.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds incredible. And just, I have seen, been able to learn about it, and it just blows my mind, what you've got going on there, and some of the technologies that you have. And, you've got, I saw a recording studio and a restaurant, and then you've got the welcome center, and there's just so many. And again, having everything embedded, like you've got certain buildings, like you say, embedded with crystals and really shifting the frequency. I think that it's going to be it's just such a powerful space what you've created. But I heard you got, a great intuitive, it was an intuitive guidance to get that land, wasn't it? You and Wanpa.
Yeah, it fully was. It fully was. Look, Wampa had a dream since he was like 15 years old of creating a beautiful community. And I had that same dream, but I was like, yeah, when I'm much older and I have nothing left to do, I will do that. Right? I always thought it was a great idea, but I never saw how it would fit into my life. We also, really loved the idea of living in community, but in a really powerful and conscious way. And so we were traveling before COVID, 20 countries a year, and we would visit different communities, many amazing communities, but nothing really had the mix of what we were after. Some were very spiritual, but they were a little too spiritual, they're a little too hippie, right? And then some of them were really entrepreneurial, but they were a little too mindy, and then we weren't feeling the heart and the spirituality. And we were like, where is this mix that we're looking for? And we thought, it'll show up one day. And then it was actually Wampa who woke up at 4 a.m. on a morning and woke me up as well at the same time and said, babe, I'm having this vision. There's this amazing piece of land, and it has fruit trees and waterfalls and springs, and there's buildings there already, and animals and ocean views and sunset. And I'm like, okay, well, it sounds amazing, but we've been looking for 2 years now in Costa Rica, and we've never seen anything like that. So where is it? And he said, look, give me some time. And I said, okay, you have 48 hours. And so he calls the guy who's helping us, and the guy says, Wampa, this is crazy. He says, the exact property that you're describing just came across my desk last night. It's not even listed. The guy needs out. Get in the car now. And so we jump in the car. And I'm still not really sure about it. We're driving in the opposite direction to where I thought we should be going in my pre-planned vision, right? And so we're like, okay, I just trust we go. We turned up at this piece of land. We drive up to the top of the mountain. We're standing at the top of this mountain with the sun and the jungle 360 around us, and then looking out over this Kundalini river that's like snaking all the way out to the ocean and the islands. And we don't see one house or rooftop anywhere, but we're 15 minutes from the airport. Nothing is making sense. And I stand there and I look at Wampa, and we just both get full body chills, and we're like, this is it. This is our home. And it was such a continuous layering of divine guidance that kept coming through. When we went back to the land after we'd come into guardianship of it, we stood on that same place, and we're like, well, obviously this is where our house goes. This is the most beautiful view. This is amazing. And we're like, oh, this is so cool. And then we look at each other and we both just receive, no, like, your house does not go here. This is not where it's meant to go. And I'm like, well, all right. Well, like, where do we put our house then? So we keep standing on different pieces of land. No. And we keep getting the message, this is for the people. I'm like, what people? I just want to build a house. And we keep walking, and we get quite far into the jungle. We arrive at a second mountain. We're standing on the top of that mountain, and we're like, yeah, it's somewhere around here. We can feel it. This is it. And then we check the map and we're like, this isn't our property. We've completely gone past the boundary line by a long way. So the nest started then accumulating into different pieces, which eventually grew into the 600 plus acres that it is today. It was about 80 or so from memory to start off with. And so as we went through this, the land kept speaking to us, and she kept showing us, hey, like, guys, this is not just about you and your house. Like, this is a space for people to come. Hey, this is a frequency hub. Hey, this is the ascension spot. Hey, actually, there gets to be a restaurant here. This is a pyramid. And layer by layer, piece by piece, we received the vision. But it's been such a beautiful teaching of just surrendering into this vision without having all the pieces from the beginning. It's not like we walked onto that land with a master plan and we're like, here, this is what we want to do here. No, we were just like, this feels right. And we have full body bliss bumps. So let's just say yes, even though we don't really know what's happening right now. And it's really unfolded, from there.
Yeah. And that kind of skill, I suppose, that you've, acquired and created over time, and really listening and harnessing into that guidance. It has, and I've sort of had a similar thing where it's like, it tells me, and I end up arguing sometimes with them. I'm like, no, what do you mean this? I had kids and music for years. It would not let me sleep. And it's just so interesting that when you really tune into that guidance, and it didn't make sense back then, but it makes sense now. How did you sort of start with that intuitive, guidance that you've now got? That obviously it's a skill. It's like going to the gym. You get better at it the more you do it. But where did that start for you?
Yeah, it is. It's been like a soul gym and a deep practice. And you're right. You don't just go to the gym once and you have the body you want. It's like you go again and again and again, and you keep going, and then you're sore and you're tired, but you go again, so it's a whole practice of it. I remember, it was a long time ago now, but I remember feeling I want a deeper connection with my soul. I started hearing people talk about their guides. I started hearing people talk about the wisdom of their soul. And I felt like, do I even have a soul? What is a soul? How do I know if my soul's speaking to me? I mean, I was there, right? I was like, guides, that's cool. I want one. How do I get one? I don't have one, right? And so I started, this quest of starting to open all of that up. And it started very simply. It wasn't like big, huge, crazy things that I was doing. I would simply notice when I did something in my life and I had a moment where I was like, why did I do that? I knew that wasn't right. And I would just recognize, like, okay, I did that, but I actually received some guidance that wasn't the right thing for me to do. Or maybe there's guidance that I received where it's like, hey, do this thing, and then I didn't do it. And then someone else did it, and I was like, I should have done that. I knew that, right? How many times have we all had this feeling where it's like, I felt it. I knew it. I felt that person was like that. I knew I should have gone there. I knew I shouldn't have gone there, right? We all have this guidance. So I started just writing down without judgment and without making anything bad or right or wrong or good or bad. I was just like, I didn't listen in this scenario. I got guidance. So I would start training myself to recognize that I did have guidance. I got guidance, but I didn't listen to it. Why? And then I would also write down, like, I got some guidance and I did listen to it, and I'm celebrating that. Right. And so I started training this, and then I went a layer deeper when I had moments where I felt like I needed my guidance, but I couldn't access it. You know, that moment where you're like, do I go left or right? And you're like, what do I do? And you just still can't feel like, is it left or right? And your mind then comes and it's like, well, here's 20 pros and here's 20 cons and here's what you should do. And you start getting super analytical, and now you've completely lost your soul connection. Right. And so I would do little games with myself. Like, for example, if I'm sitting in my house and let's say a friend says, hey, I want you to come to Bali in 1 week, and I've already been scheduled to be somewhere else next week. I want you to come to Bali. It's going to be amazing. This is going to happen, and we're going to go to this event. And I'm there in my head. Do I go to Bali? Do I not go to Bali? Okay, the flights are a lot of money, but maybe it'll be worth it. And you start doing the ping pong, right? So what I would do instead is I would stop and I'd be like, okay, let's pretend I'm going to Bali. And I would be like, I'm going to Bali. I'm going to Bali. And I get my suitcase and I'm like, okay, I'm going to pack my clothes to go to Bali. I want that kimono. I want that bikini. And I'd start packing. And I'd be like, how do I feel? Feel pretty good. All right, I'm going to do the suitcase up. I'm going to order an Uber. I'm going to start going to Bali, right? And I'd go through the steps. And I'd notice, do I feel really good going to Bali? Or am I feeling like, oh, uh-oh. You know, when you have that feeling and you're like, oh, I don't really want to go to Bali. Why is the plane trip so long, right? And I'd notice what I'm feeling in the moment, and I'd train myself to start tapping into the wisdom. And then I'd notice, okay, where am I feeling it? The gut, yes, the gut, no. Where does it show up in my body? Where does it show up? Is it goosebumps? Is it a feeling in my gut? Is it a vision that I'm getting? Is it just a deep knowing of a yes or a no? And I would start training myself to start recognizing the information. And then as I got better at that, I started working with different guides, and I started just simply in the beginning saying, okay, I invoke my divine guidance of the highest vibration to support me. I did not have like, oh, I want to call on angel number 23 and like, you know, this galactic being of light from that lineage from 4 lifetimes ago. Like, I didn't need that. I was just like, if you're there, can you please help me? And please make it really clear and specific. And every single morning, and I still do this, but I started waking up and simply saying, okay, I connect with my divine guidance of the highest vibration. Please help me and support me today. Please guide me. And honestly, the minute I just started doing that, I started having a lot of support in my life. I started receiving a lot of help. Things got easier. I had all these challenges that just seemed to go away. Like all of this so-called magic started happening. But we've got to remember that our guidance can't interfere with us unless they have permission. And so if we're not asking, and if we're not available, and if we're not doing the work to meet the universe and show up and create the space for this divine guidance and your soul wisdom or the wisdom from your higher self, then it's very difficult to come in and access it. So this is probably a whole entire course, but
totally. And we're so lucky that you're sharing it with us. Thank you. It's incredible. And it is, I reckon it is a whole entire course, because there is I find a lot of people, you know, they do get confused. It goes from the head to the heart to the gut, and they're just like, oh, I don't know. But it's actually quite simple once you get the hang of it. And, you know, and that was what happened. I saw you just drinking from this incredible device. That is what happened with this for me. And when you posted about this, about the liquid light, the Luma Vitae, I had a full body, just didn't know much about it at the time. And I was sitting with January and I'm like, I have no idea why I'm pressing the buy button, but I'm pressing the buy button. And I just pressed, my body just did it without me. And it just went boom and just did it. And then a voice came in and said, this is going to heal you. This is going to be the thing that reverses your 35-year chronic condition. And I'm like, wow, okay. So, and then it arrived, and what do you know? It's been 4.5 months, and I should have had 6 episodes by now, and I've had none. And that's, to me, that's a miracle for me, because my whole life, the longest I went without pain was 5 weeks. So it's incredible. And I think somebody else has just said me too. They had a full body, yes. Yeah. And so, yeah, so Raven as well saying, wow. So, you know, it was an incredible experience, and it so far has been just life-changing for me. And it's been because of, and the way that we connected with you was, January is a little bit like, I kind of liken her to one part, because she also is very deeply connected, and I'm sort of more the business person and she's more the spiritual person, and we work really well together in that context. And she wakes up at 3-4 o'clock in the morning and says, we have to do this, or this has to happen. I'm like, okay. And you know, and that was when she came across you and she watched something of yours on YouTube, and then she was just like, we need to watch her, we need to learn from her. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. So, and then that led to the Mindvalley course, which led to this, that has completely changed my life. Wow. So for people who don't know what this is molecular hydrogen water, and not just any. It's been designed by Nuno Nina, but I would love for you to share your journey to this bottle, because mine has been otherworldly for me to arrive at this, and now feeling called to be sharing this with people. What was your journey towards the bottle? Because you've been paramount in bringing it to the world.
Yeah, for sure. It's almost like there's some sort of magic in this water. You know, I'm having stories like yours and moments like yours with so many people multiple times a day now. And there's this reoccurring conversation where it's like, I don't know, I just felt it, and now it's in my life, and here it is, and now this has changed. And I'm hearing the same story with different scenarios and characters, and it's heart blowing. It really is. You know, it was very similar for me too, as a wild journey to get to this device, this piece of technology. So I guess there's two layers to it. There's two layers to it. The first is that we talked a little bit about the nest and everything that we're creating and the ascension spa, and like hydrogen has been in our world for years, and we've been very present to how important it is and how miraculous it is and how it is the God molecule. And you know, we were, well, let me let me reframe that. We thought we were really well versed on hydrogen, and that we had some of the potentially hottest and most efficient hydrogen products in the entire world. And we'd probably been maybe about 2.5 years, like deep down the hydrogen rabbit hole, everything you can think of, from devices to machines to tablets to things you dissolve in the water to everything, right? We were like, hydrogen. And one thing I would often say to ourselves is, interesting, like we have a lot of hydrogen things and we use a lot of hydrogen things, but do you feel much benefit from it? And he'd say, no, I don't feel too much. And I'd say, oh, it's interesting. I don't feel too much either. Like, I trust it's working, you know? And then, long story short, we ended up at Nuno Nina's clinic. And Nuno is for those who don't know, the genius and creator that brought this bottle through onto this planet. We ended up at his clinic in Portugal. Amazing clinic. He's seen over 70,000 people through this clinic, everyone from very top level billionaires and celebrities all the way through to people in the medical system that the medical system's like, I don't know what to do with this person. There's no hope anymore. And they send them to Nuno, and he's able to help them with his treatments. Now, he works through frequency technology and also with hydrogen. And he was sharing with us how that it's interesting because different frequency technologies and treatments were working for people in a different way that had the same challenge going on. And he couldn't understand why some people were getting really better results than others. And he got to the core of it. And it's not how much water someone's drinking. It's not their hydration levels. It's actually how much hydrogen is in their system, whether or not they were able to actually absorb the frequency. Now, isn't this interesting? Because manifestation is frequency. We are frequency. If we're looking to do anything in our life, like, you know this, Tenille, sound is frequency waves at the end of the day. So, yeah, we can do all the meditations and activations we want, but we're not actually getting the full benefits if we don't have enough hydrogen. So we're having this very fascinating conversation with him in which, you know, we turn around and we're like, well, we know a lot about hydrogen. Like, we're really deep in the hydrogen rabbit hole. We have this, we have that, we have this, we have that. In fact, we have some of them on us right now. Look, we have these pills, we have these dissolvable tablets, we have all of this, right? And Nuno's like, oh, have you tested them? And we said, no, we haven't. He said, do you want to? And we said, yeah, let's go test them. So we go into his lab, we take the first product, we test it, and it has 0% hydrogen. Not like 50% or 30%. 0. And Nuno thinks this is the funniest thing in the whole world. He's like, there he is. He's like, it should be called a hydrogen graveyard. It should be like hydrogen at time of packaging, because it's the smallest molecule in the world. And so it's the most difficult to actually contain, right? So we're like, our jaws are on the floor, and we're now worried because we've spent a lot of money over the last 2 years on these hydrogen products. And we're like, okay, test the next one. He tests the next one. And it was like 3% hydrogen, or again, practically nothing, basically 0. And we're like, okay. He's like, hey, come and test my hydrogen bottle. Now, it's not this beautiful bottle that has frequencies and grounding. There's so much going on in this bottle. This is just a bottle that purely produces hydrogen. We test it, it's 100%. And Nuno says, and it will be 100% to at least half an hour after this. And at this moment, we're like, okay, we need to explore this a little deeper. Again, this is before the bottle even became a bottle. Fast forward a few days after that, and we're still in Portugal, and I am in a really deep morning meditation process. And I start seeing this amazing imagery in front of me, and it's almost like this crystalline this crystalline structure, this template. It was so beautiful. It was so pure. It was water-like. It was shining. It was like a color that wasn't on this planet. And I lean a little deeper into it and I'm like, what is this? It was just it was stunning. And my guides tell me very clearly, they were like, this is a grid where the water will interact with you and it will help you distribute billions of dollars to humanity into the hands and the hearts of people that are really going to do good things with this planet. And that took a little bit
Wow.
because I was like,
Yeah.
okay, right. I'm just
Yeah, I'm getting goosebumps as you're saying it.
yeah.
Wow.
And so I'm like,
Wow.
all right, like I'm not taking this lightly. I'm not like, oh, that's pretty. I'm like, okay, this is serious talk now. And I'm like, okay, what's my action step? I'm here. I'm in divine service. I'm ready. I'm fully available for this. What do I do? And my friend Taryn Lee, her face appears right next to it. Now, I've known Taryn for probably about 12 years or so, in and out of connection over the years, but always thought she was just an amazing, beautiful being. And Taryn's also there in Portugal. And so I'm like, okay. I end up later that day on a boat with Taryn and a stack of other people. I pull her aside and I'm like, Taryn, this might sound a little weird, but long story short, I had a little bit of a vision this morning and I start explaining what happened. And she cuts me off and she's like, I need to talk to you. I was going to talk to you today and I have to tell you about something. It's called Luma Vitae. And she starts sharing layer by layer, piece by piece. And we just had this moment where it's almost like all the pieces she had and all the pieces that I was receiving just came together in this convergence point. And from there, it was a big yes. It was like, okay, let's allow this to happen through us. And here we are.
Wow. Wow. Well, yeah, it's definitely, I'm still getting goosebumps as you're talking about it all because, yeah, we definitely, the first time I drank this, I felt the because we have such a clean lifestyle and we work with frequency, we were so sensitive to it to start. And so literally the first time I had a drink of it, I call up January and I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I'm on something. Like it's just, it was literally, I felt so high and I felt so, I could feel everything waking up in the body. And I showed a video before of the cells before and after, and it was, I could feel that happening in my body. And like you say, we're seeing in our team as well, so many people just having incredible responses. And what a beautiful time to be alive, to be able to bring this to the world. So, wow.
Yeah, such a gift, right? It's so
Yeah.
beautiful.
And what I've found, I know that, you've got the gongs behind you and you have a beautiful sound area, sound temple in your nest. And I've found that us giving this to people in our sound journeys, because their cells are lighting up and they're awakening, they're actually able to have a deeper experience. I don't know if you've found that.
We've found that, and we've found this from so many layers. Yeah, it was the last infusion retreat that we ran here at the Nest, which is a 7-day container where there's everything. There's ceremonial work, there's quantum technology, there's breath, there's sound, there's a lot that goes on in 7 days. And look, we always scan everyone on our tech, and we can see before they come in all their levels, their hydration, and everything as well, like their emotional body, past life. Like we can literally scan everything. And then what we can do is we scan them at the end as well. We can see their chakra system. We can see, again, pretty much everything. So they can have a very clear before and after, which is really nice because we can meditate and do sound journeys and do breath work and feel different and think something's changing. But when you have a piece of machinery that doesn't know who you are or what you did in the middle, it doesn't know anything. And it can literally show you the before and after. It's amazing. In this last retreat, we have seen the most phenomenal jumps in terms of people. And we, quite honestly, are not doing anything differently other than they were drinking from these. And they were actually drinking the hydrogen water with the frequencies the entire time to support their process. And that was the first time that we were able to get enough bottles and get them to Costa Rica. And it was a whole mission, but they got here. And, it's interesting. We can see on the technology, for example, someone's resident frequency. So we can see basically an average of how much light someone's capacity is to hold that and to then oscillate and vibrate at that frequency. And it's very measurable with this tech. We usually see people here at the retreats have an increase of somewhere between 20, 30, 40%. Maybe like a rock star might increase to 50%. But what's, yeah, you got it. But what's so crazy is that we were seeing people literally doubling their frequency in 7 days, which is just
Wow.
unheard of. And we have never seen this in our entire lives with anybody. And I mean, this was the look, what am I doing? This was the only thing that changed. Is wild.
Yeah, wow. That's incredible. Yeah, I've been, looking at all the incredible technologies that you've got going on at the Nest, but just to be able to have that because you've been doing it before and then to do it after, but with the activation, literally creating light around the cells.
Yeah.
Like it's really phenomenal what we've got in the palm of our hands, isn't it?
Yeah.
It still blows me away.
Yeah, it's so amazing. It's such a gift, and it's rippling now all over the world. I like to see it as like all these acupuncture points of light, these needles, like all over the planet now, drinking this water in this way and housing this frequency. It's so epic.
Yeah, that's amazing. So amazing. What an incredible, what just an incredible technology and what we're bringing out and what you're also how you're coupling that with the Nest. And so how can people find out more about you and the Nest and where's the best place for them to follow you?
Yeah, so I'm Regan Hillyer on all the platforms, so you can reach out there, send me a message, and let me check. I believe the Nest one is the Nest Costa
Yeah.
Rica. Let me check it. It is, yeah, the Nest Costa Rica, and you'll find it on Instagram. But if you get lost, just send me a message and let me know you came from here, so I know who you are.
Beautiful. So thank you so much for, I know, making this special time for us to be able to have a talk because of our time zones. Really, really grateful for you and your time and everything that you provide to the world and being of divine service. And I know that the people that are called to will come to walk with you on this journey. And it is such an honor to be able to walk this path with you and to share in this one of many technologies, but then also, we have crossovers with what we do with sound and frequency as well. And so it's been a real honor and a real transmission to share this space with you. So thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for everything you're doing and being out in the world as well. I feel you guys, and you're holding it down over that side of the world. It's like almost like on the complete opposite pinpoints right now, and it just feels really beautiful to have you as a sister over there with this level of frequency. It's super epic. Yeah.
Beautiful. And thank you to some of our people that were tuning in, but we'll have replays of this available for everybody to be able to really just harness in on this incredible information, that body of information, technology and frequency that Regan brings to it. So thank you so much. Much love to you all, and we will tune in again soon.
Much love, everyone. Ciao.